Hi, well, welcome back to Niddy's Bonsai. Today, I just want to pick up where I left off on some larches the other day. We were repotting some that I recently collected. This is another one from that same spot on the garden where I work. There's a little group of larches and just kind of got to the size now where they're chucking out seedlings. This is probably, I've had this one in the ground for 4 or 5 years. Should have been a bit harsh cutting it back, but at the time, like I said, this has been in the garden for a few years. But you can see where I did cut it back, it regrew quite nicely. And this had healed rather well as well, but it got a bit wet over winter, and there was, where I'd covered it over, there seemed to be like a bit of kind of mould and stuff, so I've scraped it back. I'm going to redress that. But these heal phenomenally. I'll show you a little trick I just use to kind of do that. But yeah, with this one, like I say, it is really too tall. We've dug it out, it had a massive taproot, so not ideal, but I think there's enough here for that to live. And we might just chop this down further along, but for the time being I want to actually just have a kind of little practice with this, because I had a kind of idea with this that I wanted to do. Now I tried bending, we're going to be honest with this here, we tried bending this branch round this morning just to have a little play before I even got any wire out, and it's just too rigid now. So that one snapped, but however I really think that would have been nice as kind of a sacrifice, but then it would have got actually in the way and made a bigger scar. So what we'll do, we'll develop this for my original idea, or we'll clean it up, and then if this presents itself as a good one, and what I want to kind of do is have a bit of an apex off of this one here, so develop a bit more taper, do something with a new top, and then bring one of these down and either maybe twist and cross the trunk, but then have the branches kind of coming off of it. So I'm not keen on cascades and having pots sort of on their side and prone to the wind, but this could be like a different kind of version, and utilising this long trunk, maybe making something out of it. Right, so we'll trim this, like I say, this big taproot off. This is no good to us, it's not keeping the tree alive at this point now either, and it won't, it's never going to fit in a pot. I'm going to go pretty high here and get it done with, so I think there's enough to keep this in, keep it going. A little trick I like to do when I'm kind of cutting something like that, so I don't damage any of the bark, just a cheap rubber glove, anything you've got there, just put something under it and make sure you're not crushing any branches in a way. And again with the roots, if you can hang them off and not, be sloppy with what you're doing, that's best to protect everything. You don't want to scar all the way down the trunk at this point. This is not a perfection cut down here, it's just, I don't want to tear the... I might just sit a little bit of sphagnum moss around that in the pot, just so it stops it from just dying there too quickly. Right, so we've got something a bit more manageable there now. We can do a few roots here, but that might come with time. We can't get everything. We've just dug this out the ground. But what we got there is in good condition. So we won't really go any further with them. There's not much purpose there with that end bit, so we'll cut that back a little bit. And the rest we'll leave alone. Then coming to the top here, we'll take some weight off of this to start with, because this is done with. And we don't want to tear anymore. It's a shame, it's a lovely piece that's grown. Probably in a season now, I think. I just clipped it back at the end there. And then yeah, like I say, that lower bud is the one I think we want there. I'm going to go in and try and just preserve one of them little branches there, so we can pull a bit more sap from the area. And the clip. There we are, you see my idea then of maybe then bringing this one down, or this one. So we'll keep those for now, and then as time goes on we can choose what we're going to do with that. I think those will just clean out so there's no competition there in that area for now. And this whole piece will leave on there as kind of something to keep it alive and heal these larger wounds. And we'll just clean that up with a knife. So this here, I'm just going to carefully clean it up best I can with this knife. A bit of a knot there where there was another branch previously, so I think we'll have to clean up there and just harshen this angle a little bit. Like I say, I'm quite confident we can get this big cut to heal on this relatively quickly. You want your knife as sharp as you can get it for this as well. You know, a blunt knife's dangerous. So I'm just working it back how I'm confident with doing it. You know, you might have a slightly different way, but I'm happy with this. Just taking slow little bits and being careful at the top here to work in. You do not want to slip here. More disappointing than cutting yourself is cutting the tree. And here as well, you could be prone to lifting the bark off, so you know, where you can, just be a little bit more gentle and slide it across there and then come back in from the top in a minute. It might be later on we get the Dremel out and just recess it a little bit if the cambium needs to pull over inside here, just to make it a bit more convincing. You know, if you'd left a tree longer or the waist on there, you could have maybe done a nice gin or something. There we go, so I feel that's nice and clean. We're not gonna put no sealant or such on there. I find under this, my little trick really is just a piece of cling film loosely wrapped over it, so you want to kind of keep the moisture in but not trap the sap that's kind of bleed out of there. And you know, within a season, if this hadn't had its roots kind of chopped and a little bit more disturbed and a bit more foliage, you'll be surprised how quickly the wounds pull over. But like I say, this is quite experimental, this is quite long, and we'll see how we go. But we could always just chop this when it's kind of recovered with the roots, start again a bit lower. But maybe the same kind of idea, just less trunk. So like I said, with the cut on these, I don't put cut paste on the larch. You know, and to be fair, the stuff I got is liquid, so it, you know, it would make a mess as well. But just by chance, just kind of discovered, and reading up, you know, with aluminium tapes and things, but like I say, just keeping a little piece of moisture in there. So I just use an old piece of cling film, or a new piece, but we got a piece from an old air layer here. And you could do this with wire again, but you know, you don't have to worry about it biting in if you do it with a piece of cling film. So just lightly tie it off. Like I say, I don't really pull it over there too hard. This is probably not, you know, no textbook method or proven, or just something I've kind of worked out by accident. And again, just tie that bottom bit off, and then you want to allow it so if any sap or that does bleed out that cut, it can at least get away from the main cut there. But yeah, I found just by wrapping it over a little bit, you know, it does seem to speed up the healing process quite a bit. You know, within a year, if this root hadn't been mucked around with, that would have pulled probably halfway over that kind of size cut, so it's quite promising. there we are. I want to show you some little larches that we've got. Just going to pot these up really and just do some basic cuts on roots and things that we don't need. So yeah, let's just show you what we've got. Right, in no real order. They're just stored in water for now. Obviously, in the greenhouse here, the roots can dry out very quickly. So on there, some nice roots. Try and pull them out a little bit. Now these have been pruned back a little bit. We can go back a little bit further. Keep that for now because that's a chunky old root. So we'll see what we got. That one there. That one. And these ones on the bottom there. Those can go as well. There we go. Yeah, this one's quite nice as well. These roots look quite pale here, but there's no damage to them. They've just been washed off. They were really carefully dug out. I know sometimes when I was younger, if you pull a plant out too hard, you get a few roots on the end, but you've actually stripped off all the kind of the barky layer. But I can assure you that there's no damage to those. They're just a little bit too clean. So again, we're just chopping back the chunkier ones, so those fine ones can remain. This one has a beautiful little berry there. Quite a useful little tree that, very small. An interesting scar there, maybe a deer or something. They're pretty interesting as well. You need to get some roots on one side, but there's a few little skinny ones there, so they'll come. Take these back a tiny bit. Well, there we are. Here's the little larches that we've just potted up. There's some pretty interesting movements on the trunks of these actually. Like I said, we're quite lucky with the berry. There's some good starts there, so I'm quite confident we can fill the gaps in. These have only been cut back roughly, you know, as they were collected. I just want to see them pull through, kind of keep some of the foliage to pull some new roots out. But as you can see, there's an obvious leader there. that we can clean that one back up to, or maybe make a gin on that. I'm not that keen on normally, so maybe we'll do that on there and see how it looks. Well, the main purpose of this video really was to kind of show you how to, handle these larch saplings initially. Join us in part 2, where we'll be kind of just going through, doing a little bit of maintenance on some trees that I already had, and just kind of filling these ones out a little. Thanks for watching.